Hello, my name is Brooke Smith, and this is my Bio 201 modeling project on the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle could be referred to by two other names. One, the tricarboxylic acid cycle, and two, the Krebs cycle. For this video, I will refer to it as the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle is the second component of aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration provides energy for the body when oxygen is present. So the citric acid cycle receives the products of glycolysis, which is step 1 of aerobic respiration, and then the products of the citric acid cycle then move to the electron transport chain, which is the last step in aerobic respiration.
When I think of the citric acid cycle, I think of a Ferris wheel. It just keeps rotating and rotating just like the citric acid cycle does. Therefore, I will be using this Ferris wheel to finish my demonstration.
So glycolysis takes pyruvate and breaks it into two coenzyme A's, which will bring us to the first step of the citric acid cycle. So this brings us to step 1 in the citric acid cycle, which starts with the coenzyme A that was created in glycolysis. Oxacetylate binds to coenzyme A and creates citric acid. This now moves us on to step 2 in the citric acid cycle. Step 2 takes the citric acid that was formed in step 1, takes an H2O off, adds an H2 back on, and makes isocitric acid.
Moving on to step 3 now. So step 3 is the first step that involves NADH and NAD+. What these molecules are in charge of is pulling a hydrogen off molecules. So the NAD+ takes a hydrogen off the isocitric acid, and the hydrogen bonds to the NAD+ to make NADH. And this is one of those products that I was talking about that jumps off the citric acid and onto the electron transport chain to make more energy for the body. So after this occurs, a carbon dioxide is removed as well, making the product of this step alpha-ketoglutarate. In step 4, the same reaction occurs that happened in step 3 with the NADH and the carbon dioxide leaving the molecule. So you're taking the alpha-ketoglutarase and turning it into succinyl-CoA. So now that we are in step 5, the succinyl-CoA is used to add a phosphate group onto GDP. And adding this phosphate group turns GDP into GTP. So keep in mind that the GDP will most likely donate its phosphate that was just added on to ADP so it can make ATP, which is the energy currency of our body. So the product left over in step 5 is succinate or succinic acid. After step 5 is complete, we now move on to step 6. So this is the first step that FAD and FADH2 is involved. These molecules are the same as NAD+ and NADH. They're just more powerful at removing the hydrogens. So FAD removes 2 hydrogen atoms for succinate, and it forms fermate or fermic acid. Now we move on to step 7 in the citric acid cycle. So step 7 adds water to fermic acid, and it changes the fermic acid into malate or malic acid.
Since this is the citric acid cycle, step 8 is going to make oxacetylate so it can bind with coenzyme A in step 1 to restart the cycle once again. In order to make oxacetylate, a hydrogen has to be removed from malic acid by NAD+, making NADH. The NADH will then move to the electron transport chain to make more energy for our body, and all that will be left is oxacetylate. This completes one turn of the citric acid cycle.
Just to wrap up of my video here, we want to reiterate that the citric acid cycle makes 3 NADH and 1 FADH2 that moves the electron transport chain to make more energy. It makes 2 carbon dioxides and 1 GTP. I want to thank you for watching my video on the citric acid cycle.